Hey everybody, it is Monday night, and I really had no intention of coming out and doing a video, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the situation that we've got going on in our area and how it might affect you and your plants. The last part of the week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of this week, we're going to be under an extreme heat advisory. Now, mostly when they put that advisory out, it's for people to make sure that they stay hydrated, to make sure they stay in cool if they're children or geriatric people. In my situation, it means that I'm going to have to water my plants a lot for those 3 days. And I already have noticed that as long as I'm keeping the plants watered, and sometimes that means I'm going out and doing it 2 and 3 times a day, depending on which whether it's the beets or the onions or the herbs. And I see even like kohlrabi. I planted that kohlrabi, what's it been? Maybe a week and a half ago or something, maybe a little bit more than that. And that kohlrabi is up about this high. And as long as I keep it wet, it's just going to continue to grow and go crazy. The same thing with everything that's in my garden right now. In fact, I was so excited this morning because I went out and there were 3 blossoms on the zucchini. And so I went ahead and manually pollinated all 3 of those. And I told the kids that we'll be having zucchini by the end of the week, and they wanted to know exactly what I did, how I did it, and how did I know what I was supposed to do. And so that was kind of a learning experience between me and Kaylee and Baylor. I wish they'd been here when I'd done that, because I think that they would have found it fascinating to watch how you can manually pollinate it, and within just a few hours, the little flower on the end of those blossoms on that zucchini will start to close up, and that way you know that it's been pollinated and it's ready to start growing you fruit. But anyway, so I've got some things that are really coming on in the garden right now, and I didn't think they'd be quite this soon because, you know, I've had such a hassle getting this garden in the ground this year. But you guys, if you've got, if you're under a heat advisory like that, go out first thing in the morning, make sure everything's got a good drink. And if you need to go and check again, like some of these grow bags that I've got, or grow bags I've got, those green ones that I've got, some of those are quite dry by midday, especially with the heat. We're going to have over 100 degree weather, and we just don't ever see that. High 90s, mid 90s is usually normal for us in July, but nothing like this. And so go out and give everything a drink first thing in the morning, and then go ahead and give them another drink at noon if you need to. And then, like I am tonight, it's about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I'm going to give them one more drink before they go to bed. So just keep that in mind, that weather advisories are not just for people, they're also for your garden. And if you can't do those things, if you can't go out because you're working, so you can't go out first thing in the morning, or you can't go out midday, when you do get out there to give your garden a drink, make sure it's a big, long, dark, deep drink, so that it will be able to be it'll have enough moisture in it until you can get out there and get it to do it again. And I know that some people don't water their gardens every day. I know in raised beds and in grow bags and in container gardens, you almost have to. And I know that that sounds like that's a lot of work, but it is not as much work as weeding a garden that's in the dirt, or in the ground. So you guys just keep that in mind. Make sure that you water everything. Make sure that you keep track of your garden. I mean, this is tough times when you have these kind of heat advisories. They're just as bad. Heat is just as bad on a garden as cold is. So you just need to keep that in mind. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is your herbs. Now, I don't know how many of you grow herbs. I grow quite a few culinary herbs, and they're right on the outside ring of my garden. And then I have medicinal herbs, and I'm not even going to talk about them today because, quite honestly, I haven't been back over there to look at them for probably, I don't know, 2 weeks. Things have just been hectic here. So, but what you have to do if you're going to have culinary herbs is you've got to watch them. If they get to a point where they look like they're going to bolt, and by bolt, I mean that they're going to start flowering, your plant will if it starts to make flowers, you need to get those cut off. Because the longer they're on there, the plant thinks, okay, my season's done. Now I'm supposed to create flowers. I'm supposed to create seed, and then I'm supposed to go to bed for the rest of the season. And if you go ahead and let something go to flower, then you've lost it. Unless, of course, you're like me, I have a couple of things that I will let go to seed at the end of the season, but just not now. So how do you keep ahead of that? Well, first of all, anytime you see that little flowers come on, you pop it off. Or in my case, you take your scissors to them, cut off their heads, and then get out there in your herb garden and cut off the leaves, cut off the stems and the leaves of those things that are ready to be geez, my brain is just fried tonight, that they're ready to be something done with them. Whether you're going to dehydrate them, whether you're going to freeze dry them, whether you're simply going to put them in packets and stick them in the fridge. I don't know what you do with your herbs. I usually take the herbs in and I will take them into my canning shed and I'll put them in the freeze dryer. It doesn't take very long to freeze dry them. And then just be really careful when you take, I'll tell you what, the key to this is, the first time that I freeze dried my herbs, I cut them off right at the stems. I put them in there with the stems and everything on them, and I let them go ahead and freeze dry. That is not the way to do it. It is way too much work on the end of that process, because if you will take them at the beginning, when you cut them off, cut them down, whatever you're going to do, take off the leaves and throw away the stems at that first time, before you put them in the freeze dryer, before you put them in the dehydrator, before you do anything with them, then you don't have as much work and you don't touch them as much at the end of the process. Now, if I touch my herbs or have them out in the air for very long after the freeze drying cycle is finished, then they will start to get moisture on them. And you have a potential of ruining all those herbs that you've just freeze dried. So don't touch them. Put them in a dish, break them up, whatever you're going to do, put them in there, in your container, however you're going to store them. But please don't touch them, because all that does is add moisture back to them, and that doesn't work. So, if you've got any more questions about that, just give me a holler. The herbs that I grow in my garden, for the first time I'm growing rosemary. I've never done that before. I've got cilantro, and I hate when I have to just pick the flowers off the cilantro, because then my hands smell like cilantro. And I hate that smell. I like the taste in foods and in salsa and different things, but I hate the smell of cilantro on my hands. I've got chives. Then I've got parsley. Wonder what that is. Oh, that's lemon balm. And I use lemon balm. I love the smell of it. And it really adds a great citrus type taste to certain like salads and different things. And then I've got thyme, and I've got oregano, and I've done oregano ever since I got the freeze dryer. And I love to do my own oregano because it has such a brighter taste than anything you get in the store. I've got peppermint. I've got basil, and basil's the same way. Basil just has such a more vibrant taste to it if you do your own. And whether you use it fresh or whether you dehydrate it or whether you freeze dry it, it just has a different taste than anything you get on the store. And then I've got peppermint, and that's one of the things that I always put that in a container. I've never wanted to put that in anything where it could get away, because peppermint is kind of like a weed. It's a wonderful weed, but it can take over an entire garden. I've got dill, and that is pretty cool because last year was the first year that I had planted the dill, and it came up by itself this year. And I've got dill coming up in my beets over there also, and I need to transplant them, or maybe I'll just let them grow with the beets and then I'll just take them out of there. But that dill smells so good. And then I've got sage, and it's the same way with the sage, guys. Sage comes back. The things that come back are the dill, because it reseeds in whatever container you've got it in. Parsley will come back, cilantro will come back, chives for sure will come back, peppermint will come back, I guess those are the only things I have in right now that I for sure know that they come back. But if you let them go to seed, sometimes they will reseed in that container. So it's just up to you. Those are cool things, I think, are some of the neatest things about having your own garden is the ability to grow your own herbs. And especially if you use those herbs in your canned goods when you're trying to get, like, we use all of these herbs in soups that we make that we can for the winter. Salsa. Um, what else do we use them in? Like I said, sometimes we just do it and then we have them on the shelf. And I always tell everybody, I mark them, I put them on the shelf and I mark them. And then I tell them if they need some to just come get it and let me know what they take so I know how much I need to make the next year. I don't want something to just disappear. But yeah, I'm, as bad as I felt about this garden earlier in the season, it's coming around and I'm feeling pretty good about it right now. I've got a couple of trellises that I've got to build for cucumbers and for something else, I don't know. And I've got to get the zucchini. This week, I've got a grandson that's getting married the end of the week. Congratulations, Kaylin and Megan. But before that, I've got to get the zucchini tied up. I've got to get the cucumbers tied up on their trellises. I've got to get the trellises built for the cantaloupe. And I've got to get something else done, but I don't remember what it is. So I'm going to have a busy week. Plus I'm working. So you guys just take care of yourselves. I hope you're enjoying this beautiful summer day. For the very first day, the sun's not, or the wind's not blowing. And you know what? I hate the wind. And I know it's just part of the process, but I just hate the wind. So you guys take care of each other, take care of your garden, keep it wet if it's going to be hot, and enjoy yourselves. And if you've got any questions, just ask me. And other than that, we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.